Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back, you guys, to AG University Podcast. It is I, your professor at ANNAGRACE Newell on all major platforms and at AG University Podcast on Instagram if you want to catch up with some summer angel readings and messages, because as you guys know, this is the season 2 finale, and it is so bittersweet because I am sad to be off the mic for a bit, but there's also so many things that I'm really excited to focus on over the summer. And also, this will be the last time you ever see me in this space that I'm recording on our little screen porch. She has served me so well and has held space for so many conversations, but we are officially moving. So, a home update I did share on my Instagram page, and you guys can go check it out and see what the house looks like. And I'll be sharing some renovation updates as we go through this process, renovating the kitchen and the master bath and just doing some fun updates. But we closed on our house April 30th, and I shared with you guys a few episodes back how a hummingbird was my sign. And I received the sign and I knew it was the house. And I'll reshare the story too, probably on my Instagram and TikTok as well, because it's just such a fun, magical story. And everything about this process of buying this home has been so easeful. And if you're in this process right now and you're like, literally, F you. Why has it been so easy? I just want you to know that we've also moved 6 times, maybe even 7. I honestly don't even know, and I can't remember. We've lived in so many homes together over the last 3 years, which is an insane amount of moving. So it hasn't always been this easy. We had to literally climb Mount Everest to get here. But once we found the spot that was the one, it was very easeful. And we even got so lucky that the house for once in Florida wasn't overpriced. We got a really, really fair price. So for anyone looking, I just want you to know that is a possibility. And there is a possibility which you find your house with ease. And if it's not your time, just enjoy the space that you're in, because I promise when the right one and the right timing and everything falls into place, it will be super easy. So that's always a reality. And I always want to preach ease is the way, and it is a possibility for everyone. And it's not always the case for me, but in this situation, it's been a really beautiful unfolding, and we're super excited. We have the full month of May to renovate. We're just pulling out the carpets, painting the house, and redoing the kitchen and the master bath. And so between that, planning a wedding, it's gonna be my bachelorette, Austin's bachelor party, Shannon's bachelorette. I'm throwing a bridal shower. I mean, so many things for friends and family, and it's going to be really beautiful, special time. But it's working out perfectly that it's our summer break, that we pretty much always schedule a summer break for the podcast. Also love to give my team a bit of a break, and I want everyone to enjoy their summer. So we will be back August 15th with new podcast episodes. And I'm sure who knows what will happen over the next 2 months. Lots is changing and shifting, but I feel all of these changes have been so vital in getting Austin and I ready for our wedding day, which is rapidly approaching. So that'll be coming in the fall. So that's the updates. We will be moving ideally in June 1st, because our lease ends June 1st and we have all of May to get the house ready. Who knows if we'll get the house ready completely May 1st? I mean, by June 1st, that's the goal, but you know how these things go. We shall see. I'm just trying to have no expectations and just let it go and trust the process as much as I can. And I've been really fortunate to find some good contractors. So, alrighty, you guys, that's one big update. We're moving, we're homeowners, we're settling down, we're setting roots. And Austin and I were driving home from a date the other night, and I was like, I feel like this is going to be so good for all 3 of us, me, Austin, and my stepson, Zane. He's 13, and he's been going through a lot of these moves with us as well. And I feel like there's just something so nice and regulating in your body when you have a space that is yours. And we've been living in a rental with a kitchen full of things that aren't ours, and furniture that's not ours, and it's not really the things that matter. It's just more of like having an energetic space that is your own. It doesn't have to be fancy or nice, but it's just nice to have a space that you can call yours, so your body is regulated and feels safe. So I'm really excited for even experiencing that aspect of the move and just putting down roots and settling. And also today, this morning, I was on the beach doing a sound bath. You guys may have seen this on my Instagram, with 2 of my really good friends who live in the neighborhood, Taylor and Kristen, and they are moms who live in this neighborhood community. It was another reason I was so tied to this neighborhood. I was like, I really love the people. I am so happy here. I feel so safe here. It's really private. We've moved outside of the city. And I was like, by golly, I need a house here. And there was none available when we were officially looking. And then as the universe has it, a house just magically came available and it was perfectly in our price range and in the exact location that I was manifesting it. So, as always, manifestation, she never lets us down. But anyways, I was on the beach doing a sound bath with two of my friends this morning on a Wednesday morning to get us all meditated and ready for me to record and go on about my day. And I was thinking back to when I first started this podcast, if any of you guys are OG listeners, how I was crying and I was so lonely moving to Florida. Leaving Tennessee was so hard. And I still have moments. It was my dad's birthday, Cinco de Mayo, and I was a little homesick because I wanted to be there because I had this realization where I'm like, oh my gosh, my dad is 70. He's kind of looking older and grayer. And I was like, no, but you know what? It's a part of life and he's healthy and he's here now. And I was, scheduling some other trips to see him. So I still have moments where I bobble, but I used to be really lonely here. And today I woke up, I had a beach date with friends. We had a sound bath. I did a little mini reading, a card reading, and it just felt so nice to be held and respected in this space by people who are into the same things that I am, and angels and energy and just really, we're all just striving to feel as best as we possibly can. Every day we all wake up trying to do our best. They're all moms and they have children and we all live busy, hectic lives, but we do carve out time to spend together. I really do feel community is so important. And so it took me, we've been here almost 2 years. It's taken me a minute to nestle in, but I have. And for anyone listening who's maybe moved to a new place or is in a new stage of your life, and if you're feeling lonely, you're like, oh my gosh, this is so hard. I promise, listen to me. I'm on the other side of it. I've found my people. You are going to find your people. And remember that the more that you share your voice, your authenticity, your gifts, things that you're into, don't be embarrassed if it's something quote unquote, untraditional or weird or woo or whatever. Who cares? The moment that you share it, the moment that you're going to find other people who have been looking for someone to share those gifts with as well. So just remember to put yourself out there. I know it feels scary, but I promise you, you're going to find your people. You're going to find your tribe. And I am working every day on my end to continue to spread the AG University community and to create more gatherings for us. And I really just want everyone to find your people. That's one of my biggest calls. Of course, I want you to be connected to your intuition. This is a school of intuition and your gifts and all the beautiful things. But sometimes it just starts with finding people who see you, who hear you, who love you, who will hold space for you, who won't judge you. And I've been really lucky that this AG University community has brought so many beautiful women into my life. And I've set a really strong intention for anyone that listens to this podcast to experience that energy as well and to just allow that to transcend into your lives. I'm sending you all the love from this microphone. Always, I always send a little energy to you guys of just love into your ear holes. And I'm always encouraging you and I'm always here. So I told you that a lot of you guys say I come to you in your dreams or you've had some type of message that's come from the podcast. And I really always am setting an intention for my angels or my highest self to connect with you guys in any way that I can help you. I know I can't be there in person, but energetically, I'm supporting you from here and I love you guys. So this story is, wow, I really couldn't have asked for a better outcome for a season finale because obviously we're moving, we manifested our dream home and excuse me, have a huge health story time reveal to share with you guys. And I kind of can't believe it. I can because I'm a dancing unicorn, but also it's just buckle up. So I'm going to take you guys from the top and spoiler alert, it has a happy ending. Okay. I want you to know that I'm going to be talking about my health in this instance, but I really want you guys to insert anything in your life that is hard or heavy. Yes, this is mostly health stuff, but at its core, it's basic teaching nervous system regulation. Even if you haven't gone through the exact experience as me, I feel a lot of this information can be helpful and applicable to you in your life or anyone else in your life. So yeah, let me just dive in. This is the first, if you guys are catching me, I'm always on YouTube. This is the first time that I'm showing my journal right now. I wrote like a 4-page outline because I wanted to do an accurate description of everything that I've gone through in the last 4 to 5 months. Maybe it's been 6 months now, almost, to get to where I am. And I really tried my hardest to document everything so that I hope you guys can learn as much as possible. And hopefully I went through the hard part so you guys can expedite your healing journeys. So Back in November/December, I went on a retreat. I can't remember dates. You guys know I'm terrible with timelines and dates, but it was November, December region. I went on a retreat to the Bahamas with my friend Mimi, who Mimi came on the podcast last episode. And I was teaching some somatic dance and some energy work at the Bahamas on her retreat. When I landed on the retreat, the next morning I woke up and got a phone call from my doctor that was like very alarming. It was like, "Hey, Anna Grace, I just got your blood work back. You need to call me immediately. Something is not right." And I'm like, "Well, fuck." That's terrifying. So I'm really like anxious, obviously, hearing that. I'm like, "What?" Because it was sort of random. I went and got my blood drawn. I just sort of intuitively started being like, you know what? I think I need to go get my blood drawn. I need to check in, maybe like see how my iron levels are, see what's going on. Like it was very random behavior. I rarely go just get my blood drawn. So that was like a weird intuitive ping that I followed, which I'm grateful for, but it was, yeah, it was just random. I'm not like a girly that's like goes and gets my blood drawn every 3 months. I don't like getting my blood drawn. So the fact that I got it drawn, I was like, wow, great. Then the doctor's like, bad news. So I call her. Keep in mind, I'm in the Bahamas. I'm teaching. I need to be, together and on. And she says, Anna Grace, your TSH level it's over 85. And if any of you guys listening, a TSH, it's connected to your thyroid. And for you to be healthy, it needs to be 4 or 5 and under. Okay. So 85 is bad. It's real bad. It's like kind of off the charts. I know some of you guys listening, if you had your TSH listening, you're probably like, oh, yikes. The doctor's like, I've never seen, my antibodies were like over 800. I mean, all of my numbers were so jarring. She was like, where are you? I'm like, well, I'm in the Bahamas. She's like, I don't know how you're walking. I don't know how you're getting out of bed. I don't know how, like, by the looks of this, you should be horizontal in a coma. I mean, basically, that's how terrible those numbers are. And I'm like, well, I'm kind of like, I don't feel terrible, but this is really jarring news. This doesn't sound good. I'm Googling it and I'm like, don't. I immediately was like, no more Googling. This isn't looking good. I tell the doctor, okay, I'm going to come in and see you as soon as I'm home. Cause she was like, could you come in sooner? Let's go ahead and, see what's going on. And I'm like, oh gosh, okay. Yeah. So I hang up with the doctor. I immediately call Austin. Austin is like, sweet baby. He's like, there's no way this is a mistake. Like, you're so healthy. Those numbers don't even add up. Like, those numbers are crazy. Because of course he's Googling it and going down the whole rabbit hole. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know. It's weird. But I call Taylor, who's my acupuncturist and my next door neighbor and my bestie. And I'm like, what is going on? And she's like, okay, yeah, eesh. Those numbers are not good, but it's okay. You're going to be fine. Swim around in the ocean, try to meditate, come home. We're going to get it figured out, because it was a short trip. And I was pretty upset, because from there, my doctor is telling me some pretty scary information. So I'm going to get into that. Basically, I finish out the trip. I was like, I feel fine, but I was pretty on edge about it. But I was trying to meditate and like send my thyroid love. And I'm like, wow, something in my body is just really upset. And I was a little too worried at the time to do a reading on myself or read into it. I was like, I'm just going to exist. I'm just going to try to be calm. Stress never helped anything. And we're going to see what's going on, because she was like, I want to get an ultrasound on your thyroid scheduled immediately. And she was trying to go a couple routes, because she was like, when you were in here 6 months ago, your TSH levels were perfect and now they're off the charts. So something is disrupted. So I am flying home. I will never forget, I was in the Bahamas airport with all the girls from the retreat, and my mom calls me and she's like, hey, like I talked to your sister. She said something going on with your blood work. And as soon as my mom called me, I start crying. You know how it is when your mom calls you. And I start crying. I was like, I don't know. I'm concerned, because the doctor is just telling me such scary information. And I've just always had pretty good health. And I was just like, I don't, I was just feeling really confused, and also just really frustrated, because I'd actually been trying really hard to take better care of myself. And it was not, things were not looking good in this exact moment. So I'm crying. All my friends on the trip, because I was mostly crying because I didn't know what was going on. And when she was saying I need to get an ultrasound and make sure there wasn't a tumor or anything there, I'm like, oh no, this is all around. So all my girlfriends from the retreat, Meetings retreat, they were all comforting me, being so kind, and just such a wonderful group of people for me to have received that type of information, because everyone was, just so positive. And they're like, Anna Grace, you can heal anything. Like, no matter what the doctor says, don't let this get you down, because you are powerful, you are magical. And that was the energy that I needed to be in, because doctors have to be realistic. They can't talk to you like that. They have to kind of give you the worst case scenario, which is never comforting. So as soon as I get home, I immediately am like, well, I'm going to come in and get my blood redrawn, because let's just make sure there's not some like weird, crazy supplement, or I don't know, some reaction. Like, I'm just at this point, like, it's not really making sense, because I wasn't feeling terrible. And the doctor was like, well, these numbers, you would basically have almost no energy at all. And so I go in, I get my blood drawn again. Numbers are still high to the holy heavens. They are not good. And that's when the doctor's like, okay, well, you need to get on medication. And this medication you're going to have to pretty much take for the rest of your life. And you need to take the medication if you ever want to have children. You're at this, with these numbers that I'm seeing on this blood work, it would be a very high risk pregnancy if you were even able to conceive or carry a child to term. And here's the thing, even just like hearing that information on the microphone, it gets me emotional, because it was so upsetting to hear that from a doctor. And I think a lot of women hear information like that, and it's just such a hard, you just know, no woman who wants to have a family, who's about to get married, you just don't want to hear that. You're like, what? And I felt very just confused. And also, that information, it didn't really resonate with me, because I've been like, gosh, I've had so many visions of having children and things in the future. But I know it doesn't mean there aren't going to be roadblocks, right? It doesn't mean it's smooth sailing. And I was like, man, I just really didn't see that coming, or I didn't see that being a part of my story. And I know it's something a lot of women struggle with, and it's very common. And here's the thing, it's okay. And at the end of the day, I still believe in our ability to heal anything. I just really, really, really do. So that was disappointing, but also it was such a wake up call, because I was like, okay, I'm going to really go into a rabbit hole. I'm going to figure everything out, because the doctor's like, well, you for sure have Hashimoto's. For sure, thyroid's wonky. And for sure, if you aren't experiencing symptoms right now, you may have just caught this early enough, and things will get worse. Like, you will start feeling bad. And that's when people start experiencing, like hair loss and low energy, and it's slowing down your metabolism, and everything in your body is just slowed down. I always get hyper and hypothyroidism confused, but it's the one that's slow. It's the one that's underactive. That was what I was experiencing. And so I say this, I want you guys to hear this. If you get a Hashimoto's diagnosis, I want you to at least listen to the story first, or hear these things, these other lenses that I looked through, before you just go headfirst into taking a lot of synthetic thyroid or a medication for the rest of your life. I am never someone that's going to say do not take medication or do not go to a doctor, or no. But for me, when she said you need to be on medication for the rest of your life, my body was like, it did not feel good. It didn't feel right. It didn't feel, I was like, this is not that. No, that just doesn't resonate with me. And here's the thing. The difference is that I was not experiencing severe symptoms. If you are someone obviously who was like experiencing a lot of symptoms, and you're like, I need some reprieve, please, do what you got to do. But for me, I was just like, gosh, is there another way? Is there any other way? I will try other things first before I resort to any type of medication, because I was just like, again, not experiencing really jarring symptoms. So I finally go home. I cried to Austin. I'm like, I'm just so upset with this whole situation. Even, and Austin's like, listen, doctors have to be realists. They have to be logical. They have to tell you that, maybe having kids is not an option for you, because that's how they've seen it play out for other people. But, you can't take this as your story. And I was like, I know. And I'm so thankful that I have a really strong intuition, and I have a strong sense of self, because I know hearing that type of stuff can be really damaging. And maybe it's not always the case. Everybody is so unique. That's what's hard about giving one person a diagnosis, is that it doesn't always have to be your story. And so I think anytime you get a diagnosis, or you get a psychic reading, or you get any type of information from someone outside of you, and when they tell you some news and it doesn't resonate with you, it doesn't mean it's always true. It just means that maybe that's a pattern they've witnessed before, but it doesn't have to be your story. And That night, I finally felt less triggered by the information. It might have been that, no, I'm sorry. It was the following night because we had friends come over that night and I was like, I'm just not going to think about it. But throughout this journey, I had so many girlfriends in my life that were like, oh yeah, I was diagnosed with Hashimoto's. Oh yeah. I'm like, why does everyone have Hashimoto's? Like, what is going on? I've got to figure this out. It's way too common. I'm just so curious. Like, what is the root, right? Because I believe everything has a root. And I went into the Akashic Records that night and I told Austin, I said, you leave the room. I'm going to go into the Akashic Records. I'm going to channel what's going on with me in this autoimmune situation. I'm going to write it all down on my piece of paper. And then I'm going to give you the piece of paper and I want you to Google it because I don't want to receive any information of, worst case scenario. I've already gotten kind of some of my own personal worst case scenarios and I don't want to hear them. I don't want to see it. I don't want it in my head. I'm going to get my own source information and then we're going to reevaluate what's the best course of action. Because, my sister, I found out she also is taking thyroid medication and I never even knew she had a thyroid problem. So I'm like, is this genetic? Is this some type of ancestral thing in my family? I guess it was just as soon as I realized something was going on with my thyroid, I realized so many people around me were also struggling. And I just thought that was very interesting. And so I go in and I am in the records and I'm there, and they were kind of like, you don't have any symptoms right in this moment, but you caught it early enough. So they're not going to present, which I was already aware of. And I kept going, okay, well, how can I support my thyroid? What can I do to help my thyroid? And it just was so clear. It kept going. I kept putting my hands on my liver. You need to focus your liver. You need to clear your liver, everything. How can I support? What can I take? What can I do? Liver, liver, liver. And so that's when I started realizing, okay, message was very loud about the liver. And I don't know diddly dick about the liver, but prior to this, now I know. But I was like, the liver, like, obviously I know everything in the body is connected in some way, shape, or form because we're a very sophisticated creature. But I'm like, that's not what I was expecting. Okay. So I'm like, the liver. Well, my doctor at this point has called me a few times because she's like, I really want you to go on this medication. And I was like, well, the one thing is that it says is if you have any like liver issues to not take the medication. And I'm feeling really strongly that something's going on with my liver. And this doctor is immediately like, no, 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 nothing's wrong with your liver. You're fine. And I was like, that's not good enough. And this is the part of the story I want you guys to know. I will always say, get your blood drawn, go to your doctor. But if you feel like one diagnosis is not quite resonating or someone's not quite listening, you keep going to find and see people until you get some more information. That's why I'm always like, don't just settle on one diagnosis and say, okay, this is it. This is the only way. There's so many resources available and there's so many functional medicine doctors and other doctors and some hybrid doctors who do a little bit of, maybe more of a holistic perspective and may check some other organs. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to find someone. So I actually just happen to have a phone call with my girlfriend, Nicole, who's been on the podcast. And she's also a fellow psychic medium girly. And she's like, and she actually just kind of intuitively was like, hey, how are you feeling? Like, how are you? And I was like, I don't know. Something's kind of going on with me right now. I'm concerned about some blood work that I've got. It's not a good set of numbers that I'm dealing with. I feel kind of okay, but I'm not really sure. I'm a little worried. And she's like, oh, well, my parents are functional medicine doctors. And I was like, well, perfect. She's like, do you want to talk to him? So I send Nicole's mom an email. She emails me back over the weekend, which was super sweet because I was at this point, like, I just wanted someone to hear me and to talk to me and to not just say, this is your only option if you ever want to have children, because that was just felt very fearful reality. And I just wanted to talk to someone else who was going to, even if they were lying to me, fine, let's just talk through some other options because I know there's got to be something else. And I tell them, because obviously their daughter's a medium, I say, listen, I read the Akashic Records and I'm really fortunate that they respect my craft and they believed me and they made me feel seen and heard and valued. And sure as shit, something was going on in my liver. So my liver functions were not performing at full capacity. Honestly, it was a lot of hard words for me to describe, but basically sluggish liver was going on. Something was bogging down my liver and it was not functioning properly. And that was causing a lot of stuff to happen in my body and probably affecting my thyroid. We also were able to determine that I had really bad leaky gut. And that was kind of why I went in the first time to get the blood drawn. I felt like my iron levels were low and I could tell there was a disruption in my gut. And I've talked about that before on the podcast, that I'd kind of gone in and out of having gut issues for a while. And I was like, okay, so there's these things going on as well. And if everything in the body's connected, maybe it's also causing this flare up. And both of my functional medicine doctors were like, have you done a food allergy test? I was like, yes. So I told them some of my allergies, mostly the main ones. It was coffee, gluten, kale, and crab. Those were my 4 ones that came back supercharged. And predominantly gluten has been a really big piece, of really common theme. How about I say this? Every female that I've met in my life that has struggled with Hashimoto's, the biggest thing they said that's helped was removing gluten from their diet. So that's just my own data that I've gathered. I don't have a ton of scientific research behind it, but I also kind of think gluten is the worst. So for our bodies at times, everything in moderation. But when I had gone in and out of removing it and then kind of being like, it's okay if I have a little, but like in this portal, I was like, I'm going to cleanse my body. I'm going to remove everything. And then, maybe later in life could revisit it. But for now, it's just going to be removed, because we're just going to remove all the things. So obviously I removed coffee for a year at this point, and gluten I just kind of flirted with from time to time. But I was like, no gluten, going to really clean it up. And the liver, in order to help clear the liver, the sugar detox came into play. So the 2 things that I did, I went on an intense 30-day diet, which has been the first time I've ever approached a diet since healing from disordered eating. But this was like an extreme situation. I needed to get my liver cleared. And what typically bogs down a liver or slows it down, obviously, is like outside things, toxins, whatever. But sugar is a big one. Sugar and fatty things that kind of weigh it down. And again, I never felt like I really ate a lot of sugar, but I did have a lot of things that were like fruit or rice or things that broke down in the body as sugar. It wasn't like I was out here eating candy every day. And that's where I was kind of stumped, because I was like, I feel like I'm pretty healthy, but I did eat not a lot of protein and, more carbs. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to give this a go. So I go on the liver detox. It's pretty intense. No sugar, no fruit, no carbs, no grains, no nothing. Pretty much just broth, protein, vegetables, and a protein shake for 30 days, which was a very interesting journey in itself. Going through a sugar detox, I felt truly like I was detoxing from a drug. Like I would have night sweats. It was kind of wild, but it was also really empowering. I also, again, it's a pretty extreme diet, and I'm not into super extremes for a long term. So it wasn't a forever thing, but it did shift my diet going forward, where I do prioritize more protein. Whereas before I was a little hesitant to consume too much animal protein, or, I had mixed feelings about it. But now I understand from a place of what my body was needing was just less sugar, just really simple, easy things to digest. In the terms, I could have sweet potatoes. That really saved me. Sweet potatoes were a good one, but like grounding, just clean, gentle meals. And it really shifted my timeline, I feel like, on this, because I definitely noticed some significant changes in just my body, going to the bathroom, inflammation, all the things. Also, like emotionally and energetically, I purged, because I've shared that on the podcast. You guys can go back and listen to some episodes about how I was having a few kind of crying breakdowns, but it was good. It was like old emotions. I just felt like we're trapped in the body. I also did a lot of castor oil packs. If you've ever dabbled in castor oil, it's really great for liver detox. If you feel that your detox pathways are flowing pretty good, basically, if you sweat and you can do a little detox, castor oil is really nice. And if you want to start slow, I would just do like a little teeny bit of castor oil in the belly button and then work your way up to an actual castor oil pack. That's just what I did. I did lots of castor oil packs. And surprisingly, matcha is actually really good to support the liver. And I took a few other things like milk thistle, and really just learned a lot about the liver. It holds a lot of anger and stress from a Chinese medicine perspective. So that was kind of my next wave. I'm like, okay, well, we're going to take the stress off the body. So when I was going to see my functional medicine doctors, who I was so fortunate they listened to me, because I was like, I'm going to get my liver right before I even consider going back to see my doctor, who's really pushing me getting on medication. Because like, obviously my body is like, no, 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 no. I actually think that could have made me really sick, because my liver was not functioning and it would not have been able to handle that. My liver wasn't functioning, at like 100%. It was functioning, but just not at its full capacity. And it really couldn't have handled a daily medication of that strength. And that's another thing where like I was really happy that I listened to my intuition. I am really fortunate. Nicole's parents put me on a protocol. They gave me a lot of supplements and other things to try, but the diet I felt called to. I struggle with taking like multiple supplements a day. It was just more of an intuition thing. I was like, I'm not sure if this is the answer for me. And this is the thing that I want to tell everyone. I'm not saying that's your story. I'm saying ask yourself. If someone gives you something, be like, is this what I think it is? Because deep down, our body knows how to heal. Our body knows the root cause. And even if we're like, I have no idea what it is, it'll come to you. You'll figure it out. I promise. Because I really started looking, okay, what is causing this? Why is this flare up so jarring, so dramatic? And I caught it really early because obviously this is a warning for me. It was like big flashing, touching fire, like, hello, get your attention. Not even like a little subtle, oh, your thyroid, your TSH is a little elevated. It's like smacked me across the face, stopped me in my tracks. Had to pause a lot of things that I was about to do because I was like, one thing I'm not going to do is put any stress on my body at this time. I absolutely cannot. And as you guys remember, if you guys have been listening to the podcast a few months ago, I was channeling a lot about slowing down. Slow down, slow down, slow down. It's winter. Slow down. I mean, so much channeling about slowing down. And now looking back, I'm like, oh, my guides were trying so hard to get me to slow down. So now this illness comes in and I finally listened to slow down. And so that's a big piece of why I felt like it was really coming about, because I was like, I know I have a lot on my plate. I know I'm a hard worker. And there were so many stories I shared on this podcast, how I got into like a mini fender bender because I was in such a hurry. Like, I was chronically rushing. And that's really why I feel like my body couldn't handle caffeine. I mean, doesn't that make sense that like my body physically could not handle another substance to speed me up? It's like, bitch, if you go any faster, you're going to blast off into outer space and not come back. Slow down, slow down. And I think it's just it's the pace of the world we live in. We live in a male energy society, and when I say male energy, we all have a feminine and masculine energy. It has nothing to do with how people identify. It's just like a masculine go, go, go energy. And that's the world we live in, is how much we can do and create and produce and make and how to make money and blah, 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 blah. It's addicting. And it's also sometimes a trauma response to ignore sitting still in your body and listening to your body. Sometimes when I take time off, I'm like, what the fuck do I even do? I don't even know what to do. It's taken time for me to learn. So I immediately was like, I'm going to go into this approaching mind, body, spirit. So I'm going to do the physical things, and I absolutely say to never discount them or discredit them, and go to the doctor, and I'm going to get my blood work drawn. I'm going to be a good patient, but I'm also I'm going to look at this from every single angle. And that's all I can ever encourage people to do. I'm never going to say to be holistic or bust. It's not like that. It's like, how about we look at literally everything in the body and go, okay, this kind of came out of nowhere. What's going on? Let's look at all the organs. I ran my liver panel. I got that checked. I did the food allergy test. I think that's really helpful with anybody who's got any type of autoimmune. Really resonated for me. And yeah, it was really helpful. I removed those things. I did the liver detox. So this is all kind of my like physical stuff that I did. I was looking at the leaky gut and I'm like, okay, that spiritually represents leaky boundaries. Where do I have leaky boundaries? And for me, I checked in with myself. I'm like, I feel like my boundaries are pretty good, but my boundaries with my job, my boundaries being on my phone, my boundaries being on social media. Do you know how much energy that is just flooding into our face holes every day? It's a lot. And that was where my boundaries were loose. And I was like, all right, we got to tighten it up. So I started going on walks in the morning. And on those walks in the morning, no phone, no cellular frequency around me, no earplugs. I opened my ears. I went on a walk. I listened to birds. I was like, we are not stressing. We're not looking at the phone, because the phone for me represents more stress, because my whole life revolves around being on that phone. It could be different for someone else, but this is just how it was for me. So I'm like, okay, looking at your boundaries. And that's for everybody. Like anybody here listening, checking on those boundaries and be like, is there anywhere I could maybe just tighten up a little bit? Because I don't want to lose this precious energy that's trying to heal my body right now. I swapped a lot of my beauty products and products that I was using. I downloaded the Yucca app, YUKA. There's tons of, you could also look at the EWG website. It's basically just telling you what type of ingredients are in your products, because I didn't want anything that contained gluten or anything that was going to disrupt my body at this point. And so I just did like a little clean. I didn't do anything crazy. You don't have to like throw everything away or buy all new things and spend thousands of dollars. Just do what you can. Get a clean soap, get a couple clean things. It's actually cheaper than you think. And like I said, I was just in such a heightened state that I was like, I need to just do a little clean sweep, a little tidy. Everything's gonna be okay. Main focus is clean water, my water filter, and my sunshine. Okay. So that was kind of I did a very light supplement protocol, but that one didn't really resonate with me. But I still wanted to note that was part of my physical healing. Also, I was going to say I did muscle testing with my supplements, which is something that you guys can do. You can Google it or YouTube or TikTok it. Muscle testing is really helpful. There's a lot of physical therapists who use muscle testing in their practice, and that way you can run through a filter as to what you're taking or eating and see how your body reacts, because your body actually has a very scientific response to a positive or a negative stimuli. That's not like a woo-woo thing. There's actual science to muscle testing, and it's really helpful if you're someone who's struggling with any type of health. So at this point, I am doing what I can to manage my physical body. The only thing I really felt intuitively to was ARMRA colostrum. I felt like that was really helpful with some of the gut issues that I was experiencing. It felt very ancestral. It felt very healing. I talk about this. They sponsor my Instagram page. They do not sponsor me over here, so I can talk about whatever I want. But I will say that I really felt like the product was helpful for me in that time. I just want to share anything that was helpful. So I'll link my ARMA code from my Instagram. I'll put it in the podcast show notes as well. So from there, I end up going to one of my friends. Actually, my friend Nikki came on the podcast and she was like, would you want to do my Reiki training course? And I was like, oh my gosh, I would love to. So I'm like, this is great. I'm going to do some Reiki on my liver. I'm going to get fully trained and certified. And maybe this could be something that I may need to offer someone in the future. And in order to use the word Reiki, you have to be Reiki certified through the Reiki organization, like from a legal aspect. So I go through an 8-week Reiki training program. I implement Reiki and just really how much healing power we have from within us. That was one kind of energetic thing that I did. But as soon as I got this diagnosis, I journaled with my higher self and I was like, what do you need? And the first thing that came through for me was breath work. And I already shared that. I was like, what can I do? And breath work was like releasing anger or stress or whatever from my liver, anything that's bogging down the liver. Breathwork was huge. So Nikki and I did Reiki and breathwork combinations together. And that was something she taught me. She came on the podcast and did a great episode all about regulating the nervous system. I highly recommend you guys going to check that out. But regulating the nervous system is huge. I really feel like a dysregulated nervous system is the root cause of almost all autoimmune issues. Not the only part, but a huge piece in healing. I was like, breath work, Reiki. I was all in. I was like, I took a lot of things off my plate and it wasn't an ideal situation, but you know what? The universe took care of me. Financially, everything was okay, even though I had to take some time off. It all ended up shaking out and being okay. And I promise you, if you have to take a little time off work, people will understand. You're allowed to take time off. People are actually a lot more accommodating, I think, sometimes than we give them credit for. So it's okay to take a little bit of time each day to slow down. And so I knew I did a higher self journal. I knew breath work was a big thing. I get Reiki certified. And I kept going back to, in the Akashic Records, my guides kept going like, I want you to really understand the symptoms as to what's going on when people say Hashimoto's, because Hashimoto's from an energetic perspective is sort of like an all-encompassing autoimmune. Like for me, things were going on in my gut that were also affecting my thyroid. Like Hashimoto's is really just addressing the thyroid, but there can be other things that affect the thyroid, if that makes sense. Like it's kind of like a umbrella or like a blanketed thing. Like there's other areas that almost like other variations of Hashimoto's people can have. That's just kind of how I was like feeling, because I felt like stuff was going on with my liver, and that's not always the case for other people, is what I'm trying to say. So I'm just telling you guys my story. This is not medical advice, okay? And I'm not a fucking doctor, so everyone just like just go with my jargon, okay? I'm just saying to look into other body parts as well. So I had been channeling so much about slowing down, and this is where I really felt like was the biggest turning point for me. And you guys heard it. I shared this before I really knew the extent of what was going on with me health-wise, and I was like, I guess just hadn't really put it all together. Now, of course, hindsight's always 2020, but I started thinking like, interesting. My body is trying to slow down my thyroid. My body is trying to slow down my metabolism. My body is physically trying to slow down because I'm going too fast. I'm rushing. I'm stressed. It's probably putting my nervous system in a heightened state. All parts of me are literally going too fast. So if I'm not going to mentally, spiritually, emotionally slow down, my body's going to slow me down for me. And that was the hugest revelation that I had around this Hashimoto's diagnosis for me personally. And then it was really interesting because I did an interview with Dr. Melissa Sell a few weeks ago from the German New Medicine podcast, and you guys can check that one out. She sort of echoed what I said about another client she saw who was pushing too hard in a work environment and then ended up disrupting her thyroid. So I think those are just another part to highlight to people that maybe there is a different way that we can approach a work situation or approach something in our life. Because obviously, I was very overwhelmed. My boundaries around work were not good. There was too much coming at me. I was taking on too much and I was just moving too fast. So my body said, well, if you're not going to slow down, we're going to slow you down for you. And that's how a lot of illness is. It's always a great teacher for us. So that was like the biggest thing that I would like to tell everyone that I did that people don't want to hear was that I slowed down. And I think when I say that at first, people get triggered because they're like, I can't, I'm so busy. I have all these things. I have responsibility. Like, I'm like, I also run a business. I also am in a role of parenting. I also have a lot on my plate planning the wedding. Like, it doesn't mean that you do nothing. It just means that you bring your awareness to the present moment and you put intention behind everything you're doing. Instead of shoveling a meal into your mouth while you're watching TV, you just sit down. You just quietly look at your plate. You bless your food. You sit there for a second. You take a few deep breaths. You release the energy of whatever you're in. And then you eat your meal. Just gently, presently, awareness. That really doesn't require a whole lot more time, but you hear just like the difference of approaching something versus being like, I gotta do this. Like, it's like, okay, what if we just take a minute? We take a breath. We bring our awareness to whatever it is that we're doing. We're not blacking out because sometimes we do that and we're moving a million miles a minute. And we just reset the energy. That's all it takes. It's not like yes, I was doing a bit less readings. I was doing less traveling. I took whatever stress off my body I could, but it's not like I could just rest and eat snacks and go to the beach all day, every day. Like, I still have responsibility. And so when I say I slowed down, I just really listened to my body. I really meditated like I've never meditated before. Because when your health is on the line or your future of your children or whatever, you're going to do whatever it takes. And that's why I realized, like, wow, I make so many bullshit excuses for thinking I'm busy. But like, how much time do we spend scrolling? How much time do we spend kind of doing other things that we really actually could be meditating? Sometimes we just don't want to, and we say we don't have time. So that was another call out for me. And I did. I started going into the quantum. I was going in with Joe Dispenza, healing my timelines. I did stepping into new boxes as one of his meditations. And I was doing tapping. I was doing breath work. I was doing Superhuman. That's another great, you guys, Superhuman's so great because you don't need to add any more time. I will always sing Mimi's praises on that app. It's such a vital part of my day because you can do it doing anything. You can listen to a activation while you get ready. And she's just talking you through like feeling good, feeling vibrant, feeling love. It's just like bringing your energy and intention into the present moment and creating a new frequency. And for me, that frequency was a healed version of myself. If any of you guys are new and you're not familiar with Superhuman, I'm going to link it in the show notes because right now I have up to 60% off and they never do any sales. And you get 2 weeks free trial. It's awesome. I'm going to link it in the show notes. This is another just non-sponsored plug, just something I genuinely use and love. And if you feel that you struggle with meditation, it's a great place to start because the quantum work it's a bit more intense. But like I said, I want to have a family someday. I want to have children. I'm like, I would do whatever it takes. And I think a lot of you guys would as well if you had this type of situation fall into your lap. And I don't want it to get to that point. And I want you guys to know that sometimes the stress and the going fast and rushing and feeling like we need to be at a certain place in our life all the time, it's not worth it. It's not. Like today I got home from the beach and I was like, oh, we went a little bit longer than I thought. I'm running a little bit behind for this recording. But I was like, you know what? I was in my shower and I was like, in this exact moment, everything is perfect. Even though we're living in a rental in a little tiny house, Austin and Zane and I are on top of each other. It's not perfect. It's kind of not an aesthetic. It's not a vibe. It's grandma furniture. But I was like, I love this house and I'm so happy in this moment. I'm so content that I have friends. I'm so content I have my health. Like I can find happiness in any moment now. And that's something that I feel I struggle with before. I was always striving for more. I think it's great to strive for more. But you also got to just sometimes look around, look at what you have, be appreciative, know that more is coming. It's on its way, but where you are right now is perfect. And it just is. It's where you're supposed to be, even if it's not great. I didn't want to have an autoimmune diagnosis. It wasn't ideal. It was what it was. And so that was like I would say my biggest thing is to, when some diagnosis comes up, is to just slow down and take the stress off your body. And all of these things that I'm saying, I know it sounds like a lot, but over the course of 5 or 6 months, it wasn't. It wasn't like this took hours a day. It wasn't. It was like I would do a meditation 30 minutes before bed. You have 30 minutes before bed. I don't want to call you out, but you do. Something's going on in your life and you want to change it. It's not just health, it's anything. If you go in and visualize, I've talked about the law of assumption. I literally started creating a new identity, a new version of me, and I would step into her where I was literally stepping into a version of my body that was healed, that was autoimmune free. And I believe that so deeply in my core. Oh my gosh, I believe that so deeply. And I really feel like another thing I don't want to discount is that I went to Costa Rica. I did my retreat. We did a Power of 8 healing circle as well. And I felt like even that released some type of energy or maybe some stress or something from my body. Because when I came back for like 2 weeks, I barely got on my phone. I was like, I don't feel this need to like have to show up or have to be constantly on. Like, what if people forget about me? I don't know. What if my career goes away? Like, I was like, whatever. I don't care. I have to take care of me. And I feel like doing that powerful work of getting together and Power of 8 circles, healing circles with community. Yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly what the thing was, but I feel like all of it together was such a beautiful picture. And I cannot say how I believe in those healing circles because I believe it freed something inside of me that was disrupting my gut. Like everything was just too fast. I was going too fast and I needed to be freed of some energy that was keeping me in this state of needing to strive for more and go, 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 go. And I came home and I was like, nope, not worth it. Not worth my health, not worth being on medication for the rest of my life, not worth potentially not having children. Like we're just sitting down for a minute and we're going to look at everything and we're going to figure out what's serving me, what's not serving me, do an audit. You guys know I love an audit. Perfect time to just be like, all right, what do I actually need to get done? Obviously, I have bills to pay and I have things to do. It's okay. But what are we doing that we don't actually need to be doing? And I think there are things anybody could take off of their plate to make their life a little bit easier. I also wanted to talk about from a nervous system regulation, just I think the breath work helped. Going on my walks every day, walking was incredible. I also do Evlo Fitness, which you guys know my girl Peyton was my roommate on the Costa Rica trip. And they have an amazing weight training program. Again, not sponsored, just love them. Weight training program that is all about regulating your nervous system and going slow and gentle. And those are all things that I would recommend if you're in any type of just heightened phase in your life or you're feeling dysregulated or feeling like your cortisol levels are high. But we don't want to just sit around and like do nothing because I don't believe in that either. But I think it's just finding some tools. And I really hope that I've shared some tools for you guys up until this point. I'm trying to give you everything specific detail. But remember, you don't have to do all these things. As you listen to this episode, tell your intuition to point out the thing that you feel maybe you need the most to heighten your curiosity around a specific modality. And you'll be guided. Doesn't mean do all of these things. So March comes around. At this point, I've been in it. I've been committed to doing the work. And I'm just like anyone else. Like I would get busy and I would get lazy and I wouldn't do it or whatever. I was committed. I was like, nope. So March rolls around and I'm at a Zumba class with my girlfriend Taylor. And all of a sudden I had this like crazy, strong craving for a cup of coffee. Like so strong. I haven't craved coffee and like it wasn't that hard to get rid of it. I switched to matcha if I wanted something, if not, whatever. I was like, weird. I'm really craving coffee right now. And Taylor was like, well, I know you have like maybe a sensitivity to it, but like a little bit's fine every once in a while. I was like, yeah, I don't know. I was like, it's weird because I feel like if my body, I really trust in my body's guidance system. I was like, I feel like my body really didn't want it. I wouldn't be craving it. So I was like, I was really intrigued by this coffee craving. So I ended up going to the coffee shop and I'm like, okay, I'm going to get a coffee and see what happens. Me, I'm like, this is weird. I'm gonna get a little latte. So I drink the coffee and I realize I'm like, wow, I used to kind of break out in like hives on my neck or feel like anxious or overstimulated, and I felt totally fine. And I realized I was like, you know what? I think this is just trying to show me that, like, of course I couldn't handle coffee back in the day when I was frantically running around and traveling every week and all the things. It was too much. It was too much on my nervous system. I really think that I think in moderation now that I am regulated, it was almost showing me how regulated I was. I was like, my body could handle it. And I really believe that too. That's why I always tell people, like, if you get some type of food allergy, like, go back in a few years after you do some nervous system regulation and it might not bother you. I don't know. I hear stories about that all the time. And for me, coffee all of a sudden was like not bothering me. I was like, interesting. I was just kind of doing I was just running some tests, a little data. So I'm like, okay, well, if I can have coffee, maybe and my nervous system is regulated, I feel called to going to get my blood drawn again. Because I was supposed to get my blood drawn after I did the liver detox, but they were like, it's a little soon. We don't want you to be discouraged. And I'd had my blood drawn 3 times at this point. Because one thing about me, I'm gonna get a first opinion, a second opinion, and a third opinion. And I highly recommend that for everyone. I was like, I'm gonna go see multiple doctors. None of it was expensive, by the way. I can share the functional medicine doctors that I worked with and a few other resources. I worked with my friend Morgan, who did a stool test for me and a hair test and some other. I ran a lot of tests. Don't know if you guys necessarily need all of them, but again, if you feel called to them, I'm happy to share that information. And probably going to have some Morgan and a few friends on the podcast as well. But I am like, okay, I want to actually go get my blood drawn because I'm feeling cold. And this was when I came home for my tea party, which was in April. Is that right? What month is it? Yeah, I was like in March, April. It's been well over a month by now. So, anyways, I get my blood drawn. I go to a clinic. I am so excited because I'm feeling really good about this whole situation. And my sister is a nurse practitioner. Also, I want you guys to know that's what I'm saying. Like, everyone in my family is medical or a doctor or something. So I'm not hating on anyone who's on medication or is a doctor or anything, but just want you guys to know there's always another way. Because so I go to the clinic that my sister works at, and I told her, I was like, go get my stuff from the lab. Will you call me? I wanted my sister to be the one to deliver the news before I go back to the doctor, because I'm like, please just tell me what's going on. And she calls me and she's like, ANNAGRACE, your TSH level is perfect. It's 2.5. 2.5 was better than what it's ever been. It was like a 2.9, I think, last year. 2.5. My antibodies were perfect. My T3 and my T4, perfect. Any sign of Hashimoto's was nowhere on that piece of paper. So I go back, I send it to the doctor that initially was like, there's no other way, there's no whatever. And she really was like, I don't know how you did this. Because your numbers were so crazy in such a short amount of time. And I said, I am a dancing unicorn. I'm a wizard. What? I didn't say that. But on that paper and the recent blood work and everything that has been gathered in samples, I have absolutely perfect blood work. My cortisol levels are perfect. I have low thyroid numbers, and I've literally never felt better now, like stress-free and nervous system regulated, just like really grounded. And sometimes it takes this feeling of groundedness to look back and be like, oh, I wasn't, maybe as regulated or whatever, but it ebbs and it flows and it's okay. But that is the story of how I reversed my Hashimoto's diagnosis. And as of right now, my numbers are absolutely perfect and I'm embodying that energy going forward. Those were a lot of different things that contributed to it. But if I could sum it up in one, I really think it was slowing down, taking stress off my body, regulating my nervous system. And I would say cutting out gluten was really helpful in the beginning as well. And, now I'm in a place of maintaining this energy. And, like I said, I told Austin, I was like, I think this has kind of been a good test for me. Cause like, if I want to dabble in a little bit of coffee, I might have some, if I'm craving it. I'm still probably going to stick with some of my other, maybe mud water or matcha or whatever. But I was like, I don't want to have such strict boundaries. I guess kind of going forward, I've loved my morning walks. These are things I've just taken forward. I love incorporating a bit more protein in my diet. I love, doing Reiki. I do Reiki all the time now. It's been really fun. It's been a really great takeaway from this process. And I'm really going forward being a lot, yeah, I guess like more relaxed, even about everything. Like I've been considering, which I felt like I got to tell you guys kind of an update on my bachelorette. It's the first time that I feel like I might drink. I might make a drink. I might drink some champagne on my bachelorette. I might I might drink champagne on our wedding day. I don't think on my wedding day. Maybe on Shannon's wedding day. But I'm slowly getting back into this place of being like, you know what? I am wanting to celebrate, and I am approaching some of these, quote unquote substances, which is really me having a glass of champagne, from a place, an intention of being really regulated and a place of love. And I really feel like my body can handle it, because all of that stuff had been, a bit health related before. But I just think it's been so cool to remove things, even sugar, caffeine, alcohol from my diet, and be able to reevaluate my relationship with them completely removed, but also knowing that I don't want to live in an extreme life. I don't want to have any extremes. And that's even adding in more animal protein. That's been such a great lesson for me. Like I really feel like going forward, I'm living like a very balanced diet. Like I'm just really being intuitive and really honoring all of, even all the advice that I got, like add more protein, do less sugar, all these things. Like typically I wasn't very open to hearing a lot of advice because it was sort of just sometimes too much advice. But I feel right now I'm in a really balanced season. And I don't know, I could change my mind and end up not feeling called to drinking on my bachelorette, or I could whatever. When Austin and I were in Staniel Key, it was the first time where Austin said, you know what, I'm going to have a beer. Cause for him, that was really for him, he's sometimes too rigid. So for him, that was he was really like trying to relax and go with the flow because he's so disciplined. When he's like, I cut out alcohol, like you guys, it's been 2 years and it was cut the heck out. And so he's like, I'm gonna have a beer, and I had a couple sips of rosé, and we were like, you know what? It's okay. We can be human. We can have a few sips, because I do not reach for alcohol at all like I used to. Like I'm not going to go back to drinking regularly, but I never wanted to be like, I can never ever have it ever again. Because again, I'm really working hard to stay balanced and not extreme. And, even putting it back on the table, I kind of feel like I'm like, I don't know if I'm even really going to reach for it on some of these big celebratory, big major life moments we have coming up. But I wanted to give you guys my update because I always am super transparent with where I'm at. And I cannot recommend enough how life changing removing alcohol for actually May 11th. Actually, is either May 11th or May 14th. I know that because it's the weekend we always celebrate one of our guy friends' birthdays. That 2 years ago was the last time that I've ever had. It was the last time I've ever been tipsy or had any type of like alcohol, like a lot of alcohol in my system. I wasn't like shit faced or anything like that. I'm just trying to think. It was the last time I was tipsy to an extreme. Not to an extreme, but you know what I mean? It was just the last time I guess I drank more in excess than I ever have. And then Austin and I decided after that day we were done, and it's officially been 2 years. And so, yeah, I'm really, really proud of myself for removing all the things and going through this process. And I know that's kind of removed from the Hashimoto's discussion, but I just wanted to give you guys an update of kind of how I'm like living going forward. Is just like very balanced, very regulated and very intuitive, and just like really, really, really committing every single day. And that's my biggest gift that I will leave you guys with, is like every single day, the practice is just tuning into yourself and being like, what do I need today? What feels good? What do I want to eat? How does it feel? And like having a loose routine, having a few meals that are my go-to, but just checking in. We just don't want to go so on autopilot. And I feel like I had gotten a bit extreme, even just like being like, no, I'll never drink alcohol, or I'll never do this, or da 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 da. And, kind of getting away from those harsh labels. And like I said, it's not going to be anything that I reach for on a regular basis or anything like that, but just knowing that like I trust myself. I trust myself that if I want to have, a few sips of champagne or, whatever, make a drink with my girlfriends. I don't really feel called to liquor anymore, but I do love champagne. It's kind of my favorite. I like rosé too. But like I trust myself enough to enjoy and celebrate in those moments and come from a place of love. And I trust my body, and I'm listening to my body, and I'm relaxing in. And that is just, it's an evolution. It's always evolving. We're always getting deeper. We're always trying to connect more with our being and our human self. And that is the practice for me, is just every day taking time to ask and to listen, because it's so easy to move fast and not ask our body, not check in. And that's probably been my greatest takeaway, is that my body is like, bitch, if you don't listen to me, I'm going to make you listen. I'm going to send you to the doctor, and the doctor's going to scare the shit out of you. But I would like to say thank you to all of you guys for being so kind and sending me kind, loving words of support throughout this process, and for respecting, maybe some days I don't show up on social media or whatever I'm going through. You guys have always been so kind, and I'm really so honored to have this beautiful community that I have founded and created. And I'm just really excited for I just feel this massive pivot in my business coming once we move into the new house. And I feel like the community piece is just calling me more and more. And I'm just so thankful for each and every one of you that listen every week. And thank you for being open-minded and holding space for this story. And I hope that all I want it to do is, I just don't want people to be so fearful. It was a very fearful diagnosis. It was a very fearful situation. And I really do believe you are a magical being, and that you can heal in whatever way that looks for you. It could be, through a traditional sense. It could be through a holistic sense. It could be through whatever, but there is a reality where everyone can heal. And don't ever let that one person tells you something, get you down. Keep going, keep fighting for yourself, keep listening to your body. You can make massive transformation. I mean, you guys, this has only been a couple of months, really, from November, December to now. That really hasn't been that long. It's been, under half a year, whatever. And I just really, really believe in you guys. And this is like kind of my full life update on all angles of like how I'm living, how I'm feeling, what I'm doing. I'm living kind of a bit of I'm still in the throes of wedding planning, house renovation, all the things, but I am just being really intentional and mindful with my energy more so than ever. And I think that's a gift. And I'm really glad that I got that Hashimoto's diagnosis and all of the things that transpired, because I've completely shifted my timeline and how I'm living. And sometimes it takes that. But I hope that my story will inspire or empower someone. If it's not you, hopefully someone in your life. And if you ever find yourself struggling, just know, I did this, and it wasn't hard. It felt like it was going to be harder. And looking back, I'm like, anyone could do this. It sounds like a lot of steps and a lot of work, but when you're in it, you're like, I can do this. You just got to fight for yourself. And I feel like I really did fight for myself, and I came out, and look at me. She's thriving. DSH, perfect. So that is my story. It was long, and I'm officially signing off, you guys, for this season, but it's ending on a really good note. And I love a happy ending. We love a healthy, happy ending. And in the meantime, if you guys want to catch me on AG University Podcast, at AG University Podcast on Instagram, I'll be sharing some updates over the summer, some Akashic Records. The Lionsgate portal is always a big one that I like to share. It's the luckiest day of the year. That happens in August before the podcast comes back in. And I'll share, rituals and practices and readings. And, I'm just really staying open to what this break is going to bring me. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming to class and sharing with your friends and word of mouth. And I love you guys. And I hope this helps someone. And y'all are awesome. Go dancing yous. Woohoo! Love you guys. Bye. As always, I just wanted to say thank you so much for tuning in. If you feel so called, or if it feels aligned, I would love for you to leave me a review here. I always love reading your beautiful thoughts and messages. And also you can find me at ANNAGRACE Newell on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. And I will link all of my courses, AG University course curriculum, in the show notes, along with, if you're interested in booking an Akashic Records reading with me, my scheduling link goes out in my newsletter. It goes out once a month, and it's completely free. I would love to have you there. As always, I'm a proud professor, and you get an A+ for making it all the way through the end. Love you.